Marcus Webb arrived at Aerotech Defense at 6:47 every morning, 14 minutes before his shift officially began. He liked the quiet of the hangar at that hour, the way the overhead lights hummed softly, and the smell of hydraulic fluid and clean metal filled the air, before the noise of the day swallowed everything whole. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. He wore grey coveralls with his name stitched in blue thread above the left pocket, carried a worn canvas tool bag, and spoke to almost no one beyond what the job required. The other technicians called him Ghost, not because they found him mysterious, but because he moved through the facility without leaving much of an impression. He was 39 years old, a single father to a 7-year-old girl named Lily, and as far as anyone at Aerotech knew, he had spent his entire working life with wrenches and diagnostic tablets rather than anything more consequential. That was the story, and Marcus had worked hard to make it the only story that existed. He dropped Lily at school every morning at 7:30, kissed her forehead, told her he would be home by dinner, and meant it every single time, because that promise was the most important contract he had ever signed. 3 years earlier, he had watched a coroner's report, a congressional subcommittee transcript, and every mention of his name quietly disappear from public record following the Cascades 7 incident, an autonomous flight test over the Nevada desert that had killed 2 engineers and grounded an entire program. The official findings cited software anomaly and pilot error simultaneously, which was legally convenient and factually dishonest. And Marcus had accepted the erasure because fighting it would have required him to be present in a world where Lily needed him to come home. So he became a technician. He became Ghost. He became invisible. And for 3 years that invisibility had felt like the closest thing to peace he was allowed. The Aiden project changed everything. Aiden stood for Autonomous Integrated Defense and Engagement Network, and it represented 6 years of development, $4 billion of federal contract money, and the professional legacy of CEO Diana Holt, a brilliant aerospace engineer who had built Aerotech from a regional maintenance firm into a defense contractor of national significance. The network consisted of 18 interconnected drones capable of operating as a single coordinated unit without any human pilot input beyond a mission parameter upload. The demonstration scheduled for Thursday was meant to show Pentagon officials and a delegation of allied defense ministers something the industry had never seen. Fully autonomous air choreography at speeds and altitudes that made traditional human piloting impossible. Marcus noticed the timing flaw on a Tuesday. He was running routine diagnostics on Node 7's relay board when he saw it. A 0.3 millisecond desynchronization between the feedback loop and the correction command cycle, small enough to pass every automated check. Catastrophic enough to matter when 18 aircraft were making decisions based on each other's positional data at 400 miles per hour. He wrote it up. He walked it to the engineering floor and explained it clearly to a senior systems engineer named Portillo, who listened with the patient condescension of someone who had designed the system and was not interested in having a maintenance technician find fault with it. Portillo thanked him, filed the report in a queue, and that was the end of it. Thursday came the way bad days always do, with clear skies and a feeling of occasion. Diana Holt stood on the observation platform, beside a row of generals and foreign officials, speaking into a headset as the 18 drones lifted, simultaneously from the tarmac in a formation so precise it drew genuine applause. For 4 minutes and 20 seconds everything performed exactly as designed. Then Node 7's correction command arrived 0.3 milliseconds, out of phase. The network interpreted it as a positional conflict, rerouted decision authority to compensate, received a contradictory correction from Node 12, and within 6 seconds the entire system entered a recursive lock state that no override command could penetrate, because the override protocol itself was caught in the same loop. 17 drones held position. One climbed. It climbed toward a commercial flight path. and the ground control team had no authority to stop it because authority no longer resided anywhere a human being could reach. Marcus was in the hangar when the alarm changed pitch. He understood what that pitch meant the way a musician understands a chord resolving into dissonance. He was already moving before he consciously decided to move, through a side door onto the service apron, past 2 security personnel who tried to stop him, and found that a man running with absolute certainty is surprisingly difficult to intercept. He reached the emergency manual relay terminal, a backup system installed more for regulatory compliance than practical faith, pulled the access panel, and jacked in with a handheld interface that he had kept calibrated out of habit, or perhaps out of something quieter than habit, something closer to knowledge that this day was always waiting for him. What he did in the next 4 minutes he had not done in 3 years. He flew, not with his hands on a stick, but with his mind on the architecture, issuing command strings that carved a narrow channel through the recursive loop, giving Node 7 a fixed reference point that the network could triangulate against, essentially becoming the human anchor the autonomous system had been designed to make unnecessary. The climbing drone leveled at 11,000 feet and returned to formation. The loop collapsed. Human authority was restored. In the silence that followed, Diana Holt walked across the apron and stood looking at the maintenance technician, kneeling beside an open access panel, and she did not say anything for a long moment because she was reading the command log on the screen. Above him, and understanding, with the clarity of someone who had spent her career in aerospace, exactly what she was looking at. She asked his name. He told her the name stitched on his coveralls. She asked his real background. He was quiet, and then he told her, not all of it but enough, the certification number, the program, the incident, the flaw that was never formally attributed but that he carried anyway. She offered him a position that afternoon, not as a pilot, not as a systems director, but as a safety integration advisor, a role created on the spot because the role had not previously existed and now obviously needed to. He accepted it on one condition, which was that he remained available to leave at 5:15 every evening without exception, because a 7-year-old girl was expecting him home for dinner, and that promise was not negotiable. Diana Holt agreed without hesitation, because she had spent the afternoon learning what the cost of dismissing careful people looked like at 400 miles per hour, and she was not interested in that lesson twice. Marcus picked up Lily at her grandmother's house at 5:42, later than usual. And when she asked why he was late, he told her work had been complicated. She accepted this and asked if they could have pasta. He said yes. He made the pasta, helped with her reading homework, and sat on the edge of her bed until she fell asleep. And he thought about the flaw, about the 0.3 milliseconds that nobody had wanted to hear about, and about how the smallest unacknowledged things have a way of becoming the largest possible consequences, and about how the only genuine answer to that truth is the kind of person who keeps showing up, keeps paying attention, and keeps coming home. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel Kindness True Stories, where we bring you tales of quiet courage, hidden strength, and the everyday heroes who never stop showing up.